everyone. Welcome to the She's a 10 times 5 show. I'm Laurie, and my friends Michelle, Randy, Marcia, and special guest hosts are mixing it up and joining me to do what girlfriends do best, chat from the heart. Whether it's celebrity stories or serious topics, we're talking about it and coming in hot. Join us as we bring you the aha moments of learning, reflection, inspiration, and of course, a whole heck of a lot of fun. Let's go. All right, everyone. Welcome to She's a 10 times 5, the quad. Hi, everyone. Hey.
Hi, Laurie.
Okay, we have a very special guest that I will tee up in just a second. We got Michelle from Tampa.
Hi.
We got Crawdaddy Crawford from San Diego. And then we got Bret from Aruba, Jamaica. Hi, Bret.
Hi.
Oh, this poor fella. Michelle, you didn't warn him, did you?
I know. I just wanted him to be surprised.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Bret, I'm about ready to pull the pin out of the grenade and roll it right into the quad. Let's go. All right. So with that being said, we're going to start off with a very controversial topic, but I think it's worthy of discourse, discussion, hashing out, chopping up. And that is this: cancel culture / this woke movement. Have we gone too damn far? Michelle, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, you can start with me? Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
All right. So what am I going to say about this? All right. Here's
the interesting thing. We'll start with me because obviously, see, this is the problem. We're all facing this white elephant in the room with like a ton of trepidation. So I'm going to tell you my 2 cents on this. Is I emphatically going to say hard yes. I stole your line, Randy. And the reason being is that just the awkward tension we're having in the quad right now, because I know we're all stewing on what to say and what not to say. I think we have taken it too far. I think that we have all been prescribed lanes in which we are supposed to stick with, and it has created an environment where we have lost the ability to be free thinkers. And I think there's things that are happening that people like us four, we have got a little road behind us, should be saying and should be weighing in on, but we're shit scared to do so because of the repercussions of us saying the wrong thing. Now I'm going to start with you, Michelle.
Well, I mean, I feel like it was supposed to be something good, right? It was the chance to get educated, but everything is media turns everything negative. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that people are careful of what to say when it comes to cancel culture. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that if someone says something, people are like, we're done with you. We should be talking about it and learning from each other. It should be a positive. But again, media grabs a hold of something. They grab a soundbite and they run with it. And people don't really take the time to sit down and talk about it, because the whole point is that we're supposed to get better and not worse. And I feel like we do that's exactly what we do.
Okay. I'm going to fling it over to you, Bret. What's your take on this woke movement, and have we gone too far? And if we don't keep going that direction, we might, in fact, be canceled.
If we don't keep going that direction, we might be canceled? Or if we do keep going that direction?
If you put the brakes on the woke movement, there is a fear of saying the wrong thing and being canceled.
Understood. I think in certain paths, it's a problem. And I don't know if I'm going to go directly into those paths, but I think I might be on the opposite end of that spectrum. Maybe we don't have enough. I have I have 3 teenage daughters, and what I see in their daily routine at school and the way they talk about people and the way they refer to people is way different than the way we did. And it's free. It's non-descriptive. It's with a backbone of like love. So I think if we're looking at generational moves, I think their moves are going to dictate that. And the more that we push against it, the more we're going to be in this bipartisan culture when we're elderly. And I'm not about that. I wanted to have a group together making accurate decisions because we all have different views and different values. So the question for me would be, is it just we're not doing it enough? I can see there's going to be a breaking point, and I can see it's going to break brains and it's going to hurt people. But what if it was the opposite end of the spectrum? And it was everything. So
what do you mean by when you're saying what? What are you referring to the woke movement and being more in tune with it, or
yeah, let's say that. Yeah, exactly. I would say there's a few different definitions of the woke, but where it started versus what it has kind of evolved into. But I would go with the current, and it's encompassing of what the old woke movement, the original words of it was, but it's societal, it's personal, it is racial, but it's also just understanding of what's out there and being understanding of it. And the more open, I think, what I've seen in my life and what I live in the upstate New York, so maybe it's a different world and all, but I think there could be even more.
Okay. All right, Randy, let's fire away. What do you got?
Well, I do have feelings and thoughts, Laura, but I'm trying to understand what Bret said. Am I allowed to go back and ask him a question? Because I want to understand it. I feel
yes, you are.
I'm a simpleton, like kiss, keep it simple, stupid with me. So I like where you're coming from. But when you say that you have 3 teenage daughters and they talk about people very differently, I just didn't follow that. And I want to understand it because I love that.
At 12 years old, we heard for a month at the kitchen table about, I'm going to say his name is Jason. I don't know what I remember his name.
Okay.
For 3 months, she's the cutest boy. Oh, I love Jason. I love Jason. I love Jason. We went to the end of the year function, and Jason is he's not a white. Again, watching my words here, but he's of a different race. That never was brought up. And if I was sitting at the kitchen table with my dad, and I would use it as a descriptor, we were never very open family. We've never looked at race as anything different than a person. But it would have been a descriptor for me. Just so to give, she has blonde hair, it's for me. That was never even in the words, and because it doesn't matter to them. Yeah. And it's the same with those that identify differently. That's them. We want happy people in the world. That's their thoughts and that's their words. And they're really smart kids. They're all 18 and we got 17, 16 and 14 now. But
I get it now. And I love that. So I love what you're saying about that. I feel so where I come at this to all is I'm just a person that believes in common sense. That's the way I make all my decisions. And for instance, what Bret just explained, I love that. And I get that. But where my fear comes in with the woke culture, I did give this a lot of thought, Laurie. And to me, see, it's fostering something completely opposite, Bret, in my world of what you're talking about. And I can give very specific examples. One of my closest friends and I have very different political beliefs, right? And she's very smart. And it was really fun, say like 4 years ago, getting into all sorts of conversations and debates and whatnot. And then as we got into COVID, the tension just sort of rose during these conversations. But what's really funny is I could be with a group of people at a barbecue and I'm always going there. Why? Not because I like to be a shit stirrer, but because I love to have these conversations with people and know where they're coming from. And it's really funny because people, people that aren't watching this can't see me, but I'd always get the like that, like, Randy, stop what you're doing. And I'm like, no, I want to bring this up. And this friend of mine and I have maintained such a close relationship. And every time as couples, we go out to dinner, we always go right there to the tough stuff. And we have great intellectual debates about things because my husband sent me a great article the other day, you guys, it was the Free Press. And there's this line, and this could be my favorite line to sum it up. We're replacing love thy neighbor with get off my lawn. And that's what we're doing. Like the optics of saying the wrong thing are so frightening anymore. And we have no tolerance for what anyone else says. So while I love, Bret, where you're coming at this from, that's amazing that your conversation with your parents would have been very different than your kids' conversation with you and their kids and so on and so forth. But I just feel that today we have gone so far in canceling anybody that is not talking the narrative that they want said. I mean, there's so many examples, and we don't really need to go into them because our feelings on the specific situations are irrelevant. I don't ever aim to change anyone else's mind, but I do aim to have intelligent, intellectual debates with people. And I can't stand that nobody has the tolerance to do that.
But that's the point that I'll go back to, because that's what I'm saying. We need to have the conversation without all the judgy, preachy, like you're done, you're dead, you're out. We need to be able to talk about it. And I think if we talk through it, everybody comes to that common sense. Well, we hope, not everybody. We hope they come to that common sense place. Like, that makes sense. Great. Okay, we're good, and we move on. Instead of now, what happens is, again, a soundbite of somebody says something and then they're done. How did we learn from that? You don't learn from that. Yeah. It just divides. It divides, and it's unhealthy. And yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna really put a turd in the punch bowl here, because I agree with everything. And I'm going to, my disclaimer here to what I'm about ready to say is that I'm with Bret, I'm with Randy and Michelle in the fact that I think we do need love. I think we need acceptance. I think we need to try to look from someone else's lens and learn and be better for it. However, there's some crazy stuff happening where I feel like some of these things are going too far. And I'm going to bring up something that's very controversial. I'm going to bring up Title IX, and I'm going to bring up transgender athletes. Okay. This is a situation where I feel that we're taking things so far that we're leaving a wake of, I don't want to say destruction. That's, that's a word that's way too over. Yeah, that's a sledgehammer killing an ant. But I think we're taking things to an extent where we're blurring the lines so much, trying to make ourselves appreciate and be sensitive to something. And I feel like it's taking away from other individuals in the process. What say thee?
Prior to the meeting, I thought of like what is too far, and what is, I do have thresholds, and I'm certainly, I stated my opinion on the generalizing everything, but of course have specific examples, and that was one. Forever an athlete, forever playing sports.
Yeah.
It's a fine line to talk about it with those who would talk about gender and athletic abilities and such. These swimmers that maybe mediocre swimmers, can you pick up that phone, please? Okay. Mediocre swimmers in the men's ranks go and blow out all these records, and it's ruining careers and potential. And there are other examples. That is one that I came up with. There are more. I'm not globally going to flatline it and say we have the same policy everywhere. Policy is a tough word there too, but
well, I think
that is one that is easily one that's a problem for me.
Well, I was an athlete, and I'll tell you, I was at one point in time an elite runner, and the middle of the pack male was still a minute and a half, probably faster than me over a 3-mile course. That's physiological differences. I think from a standpoint of it's not just that we're creating a lane that we should create for people to feel accepted and comfortable in their skin and be happy with who they are. That lane should be celebrated. It should be respected. But when it starts to take away from the other lanes, that's where I think, God, maybe we need to think about if we're going too far.
I agree.
Maybe a trans athlete, is a right call to have them be a brand ambassador for Nike bras. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just stating that I think this should be discussed, and I think we should be able to have healthy dialogue around it without feeling as though we're going to be shat on because we have questions and views.
Yeah, Randy? I mean, I definitely have views on that. I actually got into it with one of my girlfriends at the Final Four last year. We were specifically talking about the Leah Thompson swimming, and I made the comment, this athlete isn't just winning by, 0.008 seconds, which is the way most of these races go, they're winning by like 38 seconds. And that's outrageous. And she said to me, listen, my daughter plays basketball, and some of these women, you would think she's playing against men. They're big, they're strong. And I said, but they're not playing, but they're not. And I feel like at some point when women need to stand up for themselves, because they're getting passed over. I mean, if we want to talk about the Nike sports bra, what's interesting about that to me is, because obviously we've all heard the branding ambassador for Budweiser, and we all understand that if you're tasked with inclusivity, but there's so many, but for women, right, who have grown up women, the concept of inclusivity in that sports bra, for instance, what about older athlete, like a 55-year-old badass woman athlete, or it doesn't matter. I mean, there's different shapes and sizes and sexuality and all of that. So I say then include everybody. If you're going to do a big inclusive ad, geez, have your trans activist athlete. That's great. Have a 55-year-old badass like any of us on this call. Have, different shapes and size and colors, but include everybody. If you're going to say inclusivity, make it inclusive. And, I feel strongly about that. Absolutely. Give everyone a lane, make everyone feel safe, and show everyone the love. Geez, we all come into this world from different points of view. But as a woman and as a runner that's worn Nike forever, I'm like, hey, like, what about us? You know what I mean? So there's just a lot to inclusivity, in my opinion. But see, what I don't like about what's happening, again, back to the conversation, is then it becomes this very negative against who they're choosing right now. And I don't like that either, because I say to myself, geez.
Yeah, it's not Delaney's fault. I mean, she's
now
being opportunistic and going,
Right, good for her.
And that worries me too. What are we doing? It's like the pendulum just swings.
The media, they're dirty.
Yeah. I think this is a real, we talk about social injustices, social causes a lot, I think. And this is one that I think is a ticking time bomb, because I think sports has become, and pop culture, and they're kind of one and the same nowadays, has become such a prevalent thing to our children and to our society. And I think if we don't handle this the right way, this is going to create a lot of ill will with a lot of people. And, sports is a huge positive thing for many, many people.
Historical movements, have we ever done it well? I don't think we have. So, like, is it supposed to be smooth? Does it work smooth? We don't know, because I don't know how many out there actually have gone smoothly, but obviously we've made a ton of changes in the past 100 years. But so, yeah, I'm kind of on the fence there a bit, but I understand that side. I would love it to be smooth, but that's not our world that I know.
Well, the problem is now we have lots of guns. So you kind of hope some of this stuff goes a little smoother, because I think there's a lot of pent up anger. And I'm going to go back to the point about, the cancel culture. When you're someone who feels like you don't have a voice and you're not able to espouse upon things and, have accepting listening ears to what you have to say, I think that creates a lot of hostility within oneself. That's what scares me.
Very much.
Yeah. Okay, should we talk about something uplifting and happy?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for going there with me. I know we were kind of dancing around a little bit on that, but I'm just trying to plant the seeds, because I'm like you, Randy. I like to talk about these things, and I like to hear other people's views, and I want to learn from them and be better because of it. So I appreciate you guys kind of bearing with me on that one. Okay. Last night, Randy and I went to see the movie Air. And before I even go into Air and all of the other things, this has so many different legs to it. What was really great is we show up to the theater and all of our friends were there, right? All the empty nesters were out on a Tuesday night, discount movie night, doing the deal. That was fucking rad. Okay. So
did you go to the early bird? Like you were there?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
It was
nice.
5 o'clock showing.
You're like, well, I got to be in bed by 9. So
5 o'clock, and the worst part about it is Randy and her husband had already had dinner. I mean, this is just not okay, Randy.
No. Like, disclaimer, he always gets there and orders the nuggets and all the freaking food and the champagne. And I'm like, I'm just trying to watch a movie. Stop that shit. So I made him eat like peanut butter and jelly before.
God. There you go. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the movie. Bret and Michelle, I don't think you guys have seen it, but I do. Here's what is great about this movie. If you have not seen it, and Randy, I'll have you weigh in on it too. It was probably one of the better movies I've seen in the past few years. And we'll talk about Michael Jordan and the impact he's had on so many different things. But the great thing about this movie is it was a piece that celebrated taking risk, believing in something, being passionate about something and someone, and kind of, holding your nose and jumping into the deep end of things and having it work out for you. And it was very inspirational. It was very aspirational. I'm so glad my adult boys got to see it, because I think it was all of that. It was a story of how we used to do things, which is being fearless and brave and believing in one another. What do you say, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, I was skipping out of that movie. You can ask Laurie. I was high-fiving everyone. I feel a couple of things. Number one, in the words of Nike, just do it. I mean, don't walk, run to that movie. It was everything that a movie should be, in my opinion. From the soundtrack, which was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
We got in the car and put on Sister Christian. I mean, you can't go wrong with 80s music, right? But the cast, the Matt Damon, Ben Affleck coming together again. I think that Matt Damon is so phenomenal as an actor that he's not even acting. He's just like movie magic to me. But really, the censor in the whole movie was Viola Davis. And I just had to write down this line of hers. She said, and the marketing guy said this too, but when she said it, she said, a shoe is just a shoe until my son steps into it. And it was like, the movie itself was just, I'm giddy about it. I could watch it over and over again, because as Laurie said, it just celebrated all these things. It celebrated coming together and not worrying about what hour of the day it was. If it was the weekend, we have a mission and we want to make this mission happen. And I thought it was the most beautiful movie I have seen in years. Like 10 thumbs up. Hard yes.
Hard yes. Yeah. And it was also a celebration of the underdog, which I thought was just great. Yeah. So let's talk about Michael Jordan, because part of the movie talked about, he wasn't the first pick of the draft. He was coming off, a great collegiate career, heading into the Olympics, I believe. And Nike took a big risk on him in a lot of people's eyes. But this is a man that literally, and through Nike, redefined merchandising, contracts, athletes becoming more than just athletes, but a thread throughout, the social constructs. So Bret, what's your take on Michael Jordan and the impact?
As an 80s kid, it was everything. I couldn't afford the shoes, but I was so envious of them. And I was a basketball player till everything hurt when I started dribbling. So he certainly defined that continued generation. It's starting to shift away now, I think, from what that stereotype or that basketball player is. And the persona you want to put out there to be a basketball player was modeled by Michael Jordan. But the cultural side, like what he brought to it, was NBA prior to Michael Jordan there was no face. Some of the faces were there, and we had Magic Johnson and such, but it wasn't as commercialized as what Nike created, which that's the media again, which seems to be a full circle on most of these conversations. But this I do see in a positive light. He brought children to the basketball court. He brought not just doesn't matter your race. He brought me to the basketball court. I didn't grow up like Michael Jordan. I didn't play college basketball, but I could pretend and take that last shot and say I was him. And then that went across the board. I think there were young women, young girls sitting out there saying the same thing from the free throw line and just shooting. And he was that name behind everything, and still continues to be, which is just ridiculous. But
yeah, just a little factoid, you guys, with regards to how he changed. I mean, he basically changed the shoe industry, right? Mm-hmm. By the way, I didn't know Adidas. I lived in Germany 6 years. I didn't realize Adidas was that German. That's a whole nother quad. But Nike sold the best selling shoe within Nike was probably a running shoe. They didn't mention it, but it was $3 million. Okay, that's what on an annual basis. In his first year, I think it was $167 million in revenue just for his shoe. And he still collects residual revenue percentage of about 400 million per year. I mean, that's insanity, you guys. That's the impact that one individual had on a whole industry. It changed everything. Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, he was awesome. He was, I mean, I laugh thinking about friends, their closets and their shoes and how, God forbid you scuffed them up. I mean, that was like everything if you had Jordans. Sports bonds us. And I think it's so amazing when you think about, and I think we all here played sports, is that how you interact with so many different people that are outside of, your little sphere. And to have somebody to look up to that's just a wow. And then they can impact the shoes and the fashion. I mean, pop culture was completely changed. I mean, the fashion is a whole nother piece, but it was inspiring, and we all wanted to, be like Mike, right? Like that's what we wanted. So yeah.
Or marry him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have his baby.
Or anything, whatever. Yeah. So all those women waiting outside the hotel. Yeah, I mean, he was, it's amazing to see what the marketing behind it. I mean, he was the powerhouse, but what marketing can do, and again, how it can shift culture.
Speaking to his power and to media, he was protected by the media. He didn't have a clean closet behind him.
No.
Most of his life, but I mean, deep down, I believe he is a good person, but they didn't broadcast the things that they may have been paid off. They might have done whatever the media might have gone through, but we talk media and how it affects the culture. That man was protected by the media.
Sure was.
That doesn't happen nowadays. There's not a person, maybe, but not many.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that is a fact. Yeah. He, I mean, like most people, had some things going on in his personal life that were unsavory.
But we wouldn't know that because it was, it's again, what marketing and what that image put out there. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And then he was the trailblazer, and so many have followed suit.
Yeah. Well, I think what was great about him and what the media glommed onto is I think he was part of a wave of such a feel good. The way his smile, he was so electric on the court. I think everyone wanted to have a little piece of that positivity and energy with regards to what he did on and off the court. And so I think that's why they protected him, because I don't think anyone didn't want to drink that Michael Jordan Kool-Aid. No one wanted to know anything other than we all wanted to be like Mike. What do you say, Randy?
People don't want to know.
Well, you know what? I just remember this while we're having this conversation, but back in the day, I used to live in Los Angeles. I hadn't remembered this until just now. And I worked out at a club called the Sports Club LA. And when the Bulls came to play the Lakers, they would come to the Sports Club LA and use the gym and work out. And I happened to be working out when they were all in the gym. And I'll never forget this. They were shooting, and I just looked over there, and man, Michael Jordan gave me a smile that lasted for days. And I was like, and so anyway, I'm just staring at him, in the window. I'm like this little goofball. And I remember it so well. And I also was enamored with Dennis Rodman, who had his hair was multicolored and he had the rings everywhere and the tattoos. And boy, he had an energy about him that was don't look at me, don't talk to me. But see, what's fascinating is years later, right? You watch the 30 for 30 on Dennis Rodman, and It's not that he's a bad guy. The guy was really shy and was like covering himself up with all that stuff. But when you encountered Michael Jordan, he walked out of there shooting hoops and was like, do you want me to sign a ball? And I'm like, dude, I don't have a ball for you to sign. I'm not like that kind of fan. I just think you're great. You know, I didn't have cell phones at the time. But in that movie, there's another quote I wrote down because I loved it so much. When Sonny says, he doesn't just wear the shoe, he is the shoe, you know? And that's what Viola Davis brought into the role as his mom. Like, Michael's not just going to be some knucklehead you pay and he's going to wear the shoe. Michael's going to make this brand. Like, fly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a total package.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that was really interesting is how they developed the shoe. I mean, they kind of go into that and Air Jordan and this little shoemaker. He was just adorable, the guy that designed the shoe and how he wanted to call it, and then how he evolved it to just being the, Michael Jordan in the air kind of deal. I remember, I was a senior in high school. I drove yes, I did, Michelle. I drove a Jetta.
Of course you did.
Mm-hmm. And I had gone out and bought baby Michael Jordan shoes, and I had them hanging in my rearview mirror. So, I mean, that's like, right? So anyway,
what were those back in the day? What were those like?
I don't know.
None of us could afford them. I don't know. I couldn't.
Well, you couldn't even really get your hands on some of the Michael Jordan shoes. I did have a pair of high tops. Looking back now, they were horrific looking. I mean, but we all loved them. So, and the other thing that was really interesting is there was an NBA rule that you can only have a certain amount of red on your shoe. And part of the deal with Nike was we will pay every game's fine and you can wear these shoes just so they stood out because they had a lot of red in them. So Nike paid a fine every game when Michael Jordan wore those shoes.
And going woke on it, the shoes had to be 90% white with 10% of any other color. That was it.
Well, what about that?
Everyone's or 80 to 20. It was some percentage like that. And $5,000 investment per game was smart by Nike for sure.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend. Yeah. And the other thing too, I was telling Randy this last night, and what struck a chord with me is, me, I'm really big on the underdog and, the hustle, the grind, people that go through that. And I think, we have become, such a society that wants the quick fix and easy and move on to the next. And I was a consultant, and I worked with an organization that was very big. And if whoever ended up landing the deal with this organization got two other big organizations. And, I was part of the whole sales process. And one of the pitches, they came in and it was the junior sales associates. And they basically kind of went through, the song and dance of like, if you have an issue, you submit a ticket and we respond to it within 24 hours. And it came down to a young startup software company, and their whole executive team came in along with the CEO, and they were asked the same question. The CEO stood up and said to everyone in the room, I will turn my company upside down for you. Who do you think got the deal?
He got the deal.
And his company was made. And that reminded me so much of this movie. They basically said to Michael Jordan, we will turn everything upside down for you. And the rest is history.
I love the Scrappy. Yes.
Rest is history. All right. All right. Anyone else want to go back to the woke movement and cancel culture?
No, nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah.
Happy with what I said.
No, you were great.
One love,
baby. One love. That we should all be like that. One love. But I at the same time, I think, people like me that have a lot of road behind, I want to understand.
We should be able to talk about it. That's it. We should be able to talk about it and feel comfortable talking about it. And it's okay if we say the wrong thing, as long as we learn from it. That's what matters. But we shouldn't just,
clamp up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what I was going to cycle back and say is this friend of mine and I who seemingly are very far apart on issues, are very close together on most of those issues. So where you think somebody and you, like, you're in totally different camps, and then you start talking about an issue, you're really not that far apart whatsoever. And that's what I find so fascinating. You know, there's very few things that we actually don't agree on. And that's why I love to have the conversation.
And that's okay. It's okay. We don't have to all be in one accord.
No.
Yeah.
How boring would that be?
So boring.
Yeah.
Imagine everyone like a bunch of little Lauries.
See, when my feet hit the ground in the morning, the devil says, "Oh shit, she's up." All right. Hey, Bret, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're on vacay in Aruba. We wish we were too. Go grab a cocktail and
this was just another part of the vacation. Thank you.
Oh, you bet. Yeah. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next week. Let's go. Follow us on Instagram at She's a 10 times 5. You can click on the link in our bio to listen to all of our previous episodes, as well as check out our live video interviews over our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, pretty much wherever else you decide to listen to your favorite podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe.